This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good. So let us get started over here with our lunch and learn about Chanukah, Haba Leina Latova. Right, this forthcoming Sunday night is the start of Chanukah, Sunday night, Monday, and then for the next 8 days. Chanukah is referred to as the holiday of Jewish renewal. And let's understand how that works out. Let's understand what the decrees were, what these decrees represented, why they came about, what was happening, or I should say, not being done on our part, which allowed these decrees to. Can you slide over just a little bit this way into that chair? Yeah, thanks. Right? That will that allow these decrees to go into effect, and what is the corrective approaches that we need to take in order that they took, and also for us to continue to take in order to glean the full amount that we can from Chanukah. So let's begin from the Otzar Midrashim, source number 1 on Chanukah. What were these decrees? What were the 4 decrees that the Yevanim made against us? Ata, now, bo'u v'na'aleh aleihem. Let us go up against them. Unevatel mehem. And let us cancel, let us nullify et habrit asher karat lahem Elokehem. That the covenant that God made with them. What were they? Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, Mila. Okay, Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Brit Milah. Also, we know that there was the decree against the study of Torah, and actually the Haftorah that we read every week. We read from the Navi every week after the regular Torah reading. We read a portion of the Navi that thematically connects to the Torah reading. That came about at this time because of this decree. We were not allowed to read Torah, and therefore, in order to not forget, we knew that we would outlast these decrees, but during the interim, we wanted to make sure that the Torah reading on Shabbos would not be forgotten, and therefore we instituted that we read from the Nevi'im, from the prophets, a portion that thematically connects to the Torah reading. Once the decree was rescinded, and we were able to restore and reestablish our weekly Torah reading, nevertheless, we maintained this reading from the Navi. That's why, and explain to me why this is why, the usual minimum for the Haftarah reading is 21 verses.
3 times 7.
3 times 7, right? Meaning that it took the place of the 7 aliyot. An aliyah has to have a minimum of 3 psukim. Therefore, the reading from the prophets and the Nevi'im, the Haftorah, is a minimum of 21 psukim. There are some exceptions, 21 psukim to correspond to those 7 aliyot. Thank you, Steve, that it came to replace. See, it's good that you came for lunch today. It's not just the Boston cream pie. It's even the Torah. Fantastic. Okay. Yes, Steve.
When you say Rosh Chodesh, the Jewish calendar system, but there's more to that. I mean, it's not the decoration of the month with the
So
the new moon.
good. Let's come to that. Let's come to that. So the first one, Shabbat, they made a decree against. We understand. Shabbat is the way that the Jewish people declare, not just with thoughts, I believe, right? I strongly believe that, right? But we have to put it into action. Shabbat is how we put into action our belief in God as a creator. Because God did not rest on the 7th day. God does not need to rest. God does not get tired, does not need to rest. God stopped creating on the 7th day. And therefore, we on the seventh day cease from our creative activities that molds the world to fit our needs, and we go into Shabbat in God's world. He maintained. Okay, so let's take a look at the Medrash Tanchuma. Now, Brit Milah also is our role in circumcision. It's that the idea that the same way that the human body, at least the male body, is not perfect, and it needs to be brought to perfection to completion through the circumcision. And that, of course, is meant to show us that so too, in a spiritual sense, it is given to us the task, the mission to improve and perfect our spiritual self. The Medrash Tanchuma speaks about man maintains a role in the completion of the world. This is in Tazria. Tazria is where we have the mitzvah of Brit Milah. And we learn there in the Medrash. Ma'aseh happened. Sheshal Turnus Rufus HaRasha, who Turnus Rufus was a Roman, an evil guy, asked Rabbi Akiva, Ezo Ma'asim Na'im, whose actions are more beautiful? Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shel B'Vasav Adam. Are God's actions more beautiful, or are humankind's actions more beautiful? Rabbi Akiva knew exactly where he was going with this. Amalei said, Shel B'Vasav Adam Na'im. Human actions are more beautiful. Rabbi Akiva said, Amalei Tanas Ruth Harei Shamayim Va'aretz Yachal Adam La'asod Kayotze B'hem. Right? Heaven and earth, the wonders of the heaven, the wonders of earth. Can a human being, can a person of flesh and blood make anything remotely similar to that? How can you, Rabbi Akiva, say that the actions of mankind, of humankind, are greater than that of God? Amalei Rabbi Akiva responded, Lo tomali b'davar shulamalam min abriot. Don't talk to me about something that is beyond the realm, the ability of a human being to do. The question is not who can do greater things. The question was which one creates more beautiful things. So let's look at the realm of human beings' abilities. Asking something which is within the capability of man. So then Turnus Rufus came around to what was really on his mind the whole time. Amalei lama ten Why do you circumcise yourself? That was the point of his whole line of questioning, right? You are ruining, and the Greek view was certainly of the splendor of man. The Olympics used to be done naked. It was a celebration of the grandeur, the beauty of the human body. So why do you go and ruin that, tinker with that, desecrate that, according to the way they and some in San Francisco might look at it? Why do you go and you interfere with the beauty of God, imposing the ugliness of man? Amar Lei, Rabbi Akiva said, I knew that's where you were going. I knew about this matter you were asking me. And that's why I responded, and I said to you that the actions of mankind are greater or more beautiful than that of God. Meaning, he brought some raw wheat, and then he brought some Boston cream pie or other cake that we have over here. And he said, right? Take a bite of this and take a bite of that. These are the acts, the work of God. These are the works of mankind. These are greater than that. Meaning that God, it's not that we outdo God in any way, chas v'shalom, but God gives us the opportunity to partner and to improve. God leaves room for us to do. He didn't have to. He doesn't need to. He wanted to give us. I always compare it. My father, Lava Shalom, if there would be a new bottle to open up, and it's very hard to open up the bottle, right? So we would do it together. Thanks for helping me, right? He would say to me, or I would try to hint to him. He'd do it. Thanks for loosening it up for me, right? So if you want to encourage someone, you bring them into the equation. You give them some room, right? We need to, as frustrating as it is sometimes watching our kids do something that we could do much better, much faster, much cleaner, much more effectively, much more efficiently, but they learn to do it by doing that, and they feel that they can do, and that's how they develop into people who actually can and will do. So Hashem gives us a role in the completion of the world, and that is Brit Milah, and that was something that was antithetical to the belief of the Yevanim, in that there's the glory, the splendor of mankind, and that's it. It's not for us to tinker, it's not for us to improve. The whole idea of the Sefer HaChinuch, that the Brit Milah is to show us that so too in a spiritual sense we're meant to improve. All of that was completely foreign to them. That was not something that they recognized, accepted at all. Oh, 1 second. Good, we've got Gabriella and Elizabeth, Adam Reingold. Nice. Okay. Okay, good.
Hello.
Okay. Hello. Good. And we also want to get Ateret. I guess she's not up to it today.
She's not there?
No, not yet. Okay, so that is the idea of the Brit Milah. But as Steve asked, Rav Shlomo asked, well, the Rosh Chodesh, the new month, right? That's kind of lame, right? Or at first glance, it might seem kind of lame. So let's see, right, how the new month is also our connection to spirituality. We'll see the Or Gedalyahu in just a moment, right? But there's also another aspect to it. Let me lead with that. The idea of the new month is that we are not controlled by time, but we control time. Meaning, when it comes to the Jewish holidays, as we always say, that it's not that we're just celebrating, oh, back in the day, this and this happened, woo, let's celebrate, but it's that we re-enter that zone, that spiritual zone that allowed for the miracle that took place back then. We re-enter that zone every year at this time. But who determines the time? For example, Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment. So the Medrash tells the story that the heavenly court had convened for the day of judgment, but the witnesses who would testify about the new moon hadn't gotten to the court in time. And therefore they could not declare that day as Rosh Hashanah, as the new year. The next day will be Rosh Hashanah. We, of course, keep 2 days, right? But then it was based on when the witnesses would come. And therefore, so to speak, Hashem said to the heavenly court, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, whoever of the court, time to go home, right? We will reconvene tomorrow. We control that flow of time, that spiritual flow of energy of when the holidays are. Based on when we declare Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first of the month of Nisan, to be. So that will determine when there is an obligation to have the Seder and when it is absolutely forbidden to eat the chametz, to eat anything that is leavened. If it's on the Tuesday, then Pesach will end. Pesach will start 2 weeks later on Tuesday. At least in Israel will end the next week on Tuesday, outside of Israel on Wednesday. And Thursday we're good to go, or Wednesday we're good to go. If it's a day later, then on Wednesday, heaven forbid to have that falafel, right? So therefore, it is this idea that we are not cowering under nature, but we with our spiritual energy have the ability to affect all of that. Rav Gedalia Shor, in his classic Or Gedalyahu, explains further. We'll go right to the English. The Greeks wanted to nullify Rosh Chodesh, Shabbat, and circumcision. We need to understand why the Greeks were opposed to the midst of sanctifying the new month, as this only includes arranging the order of the months. The explanation is that the Greeks wanted to destroy the power of renewal inherent within the Jew and the ability to release oneself from habit and rote. This power of renewal is related to Rosh Chodesh and to sanctifying the new moon, as is hinted in the words we say when we sanctify the new moon, Sha'atid l'tchadesh kemotah, that we, the Jewish people, will be renewed like that month, like that moon. On Rosh Chodesh, a person is given the power to renew oneself like the moon that is renewed each month. Now, of course, we know the moon is not, it's the same moon constantly, but the way that God arranged the world is that in terms of what we can perceive, it waxes strong, it waxes full, it becomes smaller and smaller, it disappears and it reappears. And that is in order to show us and to instill in us this sense of our ability of renewal. By seeing that the moon is renewed from our perspective, of course, we come to understand that there is an influence of renewal in the world. Yes, Cheryl. Yes, but they would prevent. Remember, this is during the time that the Beit HaMikdash was standing, right? So yes, but the whole process of witnesses coming and declaring. Right now, how do we keep track? We have a set calendar, not based upon the witnesses coming and offering their testimony. So what they were doing was annulling that whole system that we had to properly arrange the moon according to the witnesses. What did we do about that? That's an excellent question, Cheryl. What did we do about that? We probably just had to lapse into a system like we have today of having a set calendar, meaning there's 354. The new moon, the new month, is either going to be on day 30 or on day 31. Okay, it's not that if witnesses don't come, the month just keeps going, and now it's 57 days, right? We don't wait till the next 60 days until witnesses come for the second time around, right? So if the witnesses come on day 30, then that day is proclaimed the new month, which means the previous month had 29 days. If they don't come on day 30, then automatically, right? Then automatically day 31, then it's a 30-day month, and day 31 is automatically going to be Rosh Chodesh. There's 354 days in a lunar month.
So every other month?
Basically, right? If you look at our calendar, it's basically every other month. Okay? Because rounding out, right? If we round it out, it's 354 days to a lunar month. 354, well, 12 times 30 is 360, right? It's 6 less than that. So you have 6 months that are 29 days, 6 months that are 30 days equals 354. Okay? Trust me on the math. Okay? I've gone over this before. Okay. Yes.
Who were the witnesses and what was it that they witnessed?
The witnesses were any two people who saw, and what they witnessed was that the moon had reappeared. The moon had reappeared, and that was then the start of the month. The 15th is when the moon is full, then it starts to fade, it gets bigger and bigger, then it fades and fades, it's out of sight, and then the next lunar month is when it reappears.
It couldn't just be that they saw the new moon. They had to describe what it looked like and where it was.
Correct. And the rabbis had clear astronomy knowledge, and they were able to determine, to make sure. There were the tzedukim. There were those who wanted to throw us off because of their often nefarious but misinterpretations of the Torah. and that we had to make sure that it was correct, right? Once we had the new moon, they used to set up a whole system of waving these flaming logs from mountain to mountain to let everyone know. But the Tzedukim would then do it on the wrong day and offset the entire exile. So therefore we started sending messengers. And even the messengers, they would sometimes have false witnesses. So we had to properly vet the entire process to make sure that it was done properly.
What was their problem?
Why were they so? When it came to Shavuot, they held that Shavuot always has to be on a Sunday. So when they could, they would try to arrange the new month that the 6th of Sivan would be on a Sunday. The pasuk says Macharat HaShabbat. We'll get to that. Maybe we'll have a lunch and learn that when we get to Shavuot time. Their approach. So that's why they would try to offset things.
So would they just, did they not go by the oral Torah?
Correct. The Tzedukim rejected the teaching of the oral Torah, and yes, that's exactly correct. Okay. Another decree they had was against the family purity that we have, right? The Jewish family life is based on the holiness, the spiritual purity. The Greeks wanted to destroy this and undermine the family structure of Jewish life. The Rashi in Shabbos number 4, there was a decree, Shegozi vanim al kol betulot hanesuot lihibael letafsar techila. This was, for generations, a very common thing amongst the lords, as opposed to the manor lords, as opposed to their serfs. Whoever would get married had to first have a visit with the governor prior to their wedding night, right? And again, this would offset the whole holiness and purity of the Jewish people. There's an incredible story that I've shared before. There was an elderly Russian couple living in Brooklyn who were not affiliated with any synagogue, no affiliation whatsoever in the community at all. And the husband passed away. And the woman, the wife, called the Chevra Kadisha, right? The Chevra Kadisha is the Jewish Burial Society, to please come and help and take her husband and afford him a proper Jewish burial. And of course they came to pick up the body and to give a proper Jewish burial. The woman was already old, was not able to accompany them to the funeral. And they asked her if she'd like to have a last few words, right, before they take away her husband of many years. And she went over, and they overheard what she said. And what she said was incredible. She said, when you go to the heavenly court, explain to them so they shouldn't be angry with us. Explain to them that when we lived in Russia, there was no mikveh that I was able to go to. So we weren't able to have children. Explain to them they shouldn't be angry, that that's why we couldn't have children. Explain to them. Could you imagine a couple for all those years not engaging in intimacy because there was no mikveh available? And as if that's not enough, not to feel they're going to go to heaven and say, oh, we are Superman and Wonder Woman. Look what we did. Look how we abstained. Oh, the reward that we deserve for that. No, they shouldn't be upset with us that we didn't have children. We couldn't. That is the purity of the Jewish people, of the Jewish family. The Balaturim on Bereshit in Parshat Toldot. Parshat Toldot tells us all about Yitzchak, all about Isaac. And in the middle of the parsha that tells us about Isaac, we hear about these wells that he dug. And it seems to be this strange diversion, right? Why is so much ink being used in our holy Torah to tell us about the wells? And these wells represent, according to some, according to the Ramban, they represent the three Batei Mikdash, the three temples that were built. And the Balaturim says, Rechovot. The third well dug by Yitzchak, Isaac, is called Rechovot. This is Keneged Yavan. This refers to the future time corresponding to the Greek Shegazru, that they had a decree, Shelo Yitvalu, that the women could not immerse in mikvot. Why did they do that? Kedei Laman Ami Pirivarivi, in order to prevent the Jews from propagating, engaging in marital intimacy, and having children. V'nase lahem nes, and a miracle took place. V'nizdame lahem mikvah. The Medrash Ma'aseh Chanukah said that there was a mikvah that pooled naturally in their homes. This is what the pasuk says, right? By the well of Yitzchak, Rechovot, he dug a well and he called it Rechovot, Ufarinu ba'aretz, and we will parinu ba'aretz. Let me grab a chumash. Let's get that whole pasuk. But take Misham, and he left from there, and he dug another well, and they did not fight over that one. And he called it Rechovot Vayomer, and he said, Ki atah erchiv Hashem lana. Now God has widened out the expanse for us. Ufarinu ba'aretz, and we will be fruitful in the land. Okay. Rav Wolbe explains in a more general sense, source number 6, the Alei Shor, the Jewish exile by the Greeks. And it's very interesting, we're calling this an exile, even though where were we? In the land, with what standing? The Beit HaMikdash, the temple standing. But Golus and Geula has to do with our connection to Hashem, right? The destruction, as the prophets warned about, would come about, was that the temple, if without the presence of God there, and our actions would either bring God close or distance him, without God's presence, there becomes a building that can simply be destroyed as it was. Geula, redemption, and Galus and exile is our connection to God. During this time, as we'll soon see, why they were able to bring about all of these decrees was because we had not been maintaining our relationship with God. And therefore, that was an exile, that was a galus, even though we were in Israel, even though we had a temple standing. Yes, Cheryl.
What percentage of the people were observant of the others?
That's an excellent question. I can't give you, I don't know, right? There was a tremendous amount of the mityavnim, those who were mixing in with the Greek society and becoming Greek-like, right? The assimilation, yeah. And then there were the few and the mighty who held on, and that was the Chanukah miracle. And that was the war that they fought and the Chanukah miracle that ensued. So Rav Wolbe writes, the Jewish exile by the Greeks darkened the eyes of the Jews, meaning it obscured their ability to have clarity and understanding. Not only did the Greeks enact many decrees against the Jews in order to have them forget the Torah and bring darkness upon them, they also wanted to prevent the Jews from observing God's laws and take away their status of being the chosen nation, so they should become free and assimilate. This would undermine the essence of the holy nation. There is such a medrash, though. Okay. Why did God, as we turn to the next page, why did God grant the Greeks the power to decree against the Jewish people? What had the Jewish people done to deserve such a fate? It's a little neater. Second. What had the Jewish people done to deserve such a fate? Meaning, when this havoc has been, is brought upon us by our enemies, God allows it to happen when he does. When it happens, it means God allows it to happen. Why is he allowing it to happen? Because we are not doing what we need to be doing. And these are the very often painful, sometimes horrific reminders, right? There is an expression from Rav Chaim of Volozhin that if the Jew does not make Kiddush, the Gentile makes Havdalah. Of course, a play on words. Kiddush is what brings in Shabbos. Havdalah is what ends Shabbos. But Kiddush is sanctification. Havdalah is separation. If the Jew does not make himself sanctified, then and tries to mix in, then the Gentile makes Havdalah, makes that separation. When the Reform Jewish Congress decreed that that intermarriage was perfectly fine, many of the Rabbanim then said it's only going to be a matter of time until the Gentiles will prohibit. And it was years later that the Nazis enacted law that there could not be any intermarriage. One cannot marry a Jew, an Aryan cannot marry a Jew. If we don't make the Kiddush, then they make the Havdalah, they make the separation. And certainly, I believe it's the Neshech Chachma, that there was a time that again in Germany, which was the very foundation of the Reform movement, they started taking all of the references to Jerusalem, to Zion, out of the Siddur, because Berlin is our Jerusalem, is the new Jerusalem. And once again, we saw what a Jerusalem Berlin turned into for the Jewish people. And certainly, I think it was the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, many said along these lines, that when asked, right, does the Holocaust make you lose faith in God? They know it makes me lose faith in mankind, right? And it makes me lose faith in any ism that doesn't involve God in it, right? Because Germany was the most cultured people with their opera and their philosophy and their medicine, you name it, right? Their engineers were the top. And when I took the group from here on the Poland-Israel trip, so in Auschwitz, there was an area where there was a pool of water, a very strange pool of water, about, I don't know, 6 feet by 8 feet, a few feet deep, right? Why was that there? Oh, because the German insurance companies wouldn't insure the camp because there was so much fire going on over there with the incinerators, unless there was a water source nearby. Can you imagine? And of course, it was German engineering companies who each helped to design and put in their bids for how to make the most efficient gas chambers and the most efficient incinerators to burn the bodies afterwards. This is the most cultured country in the world. So if you think that culture without God will lead to an exalted life, think again. So anything that comes our way is coming our way because God is allowing it as a major, major kick in the pants, wake up call that lo zu haderech. This is not the way to be going. Let's see source number 7. The Bach writes, Aval b'Chanukah ikar gzeira hayta al shehitrashlu ba'avodah. The main reason for the decree upon the Jews was because they were lax. We became lazy, dismissive in our service of Hashem in that Beit HaMikdash, in the temple. If you don't appreciate the splendor, the uplifted grandeur of the service, you won't have that service. Rav Volbe again writes on this source number 8, Panim Chadoshos Ra'inu Kan, a whole new view, a whole new perspective, a whole new clarity. Gzeirot Einan Ba'ot B'li Siba, decrees do not come without a heavenly reason. V'Gzeira Ba'aba Midah Kenegin Midah, and the decree comes measure for measure. Im lo haita ezu hitrashlut ba'avodah, lo hayu gzeirot hayivanim. Had there been no weakening, no laziness, no dismissiveness in our divine service, there would have been no decree made by the Yevanim. And the Rambam Maimonides in Hilchot Yom Kippur, he writes, Bimei Bayit Sheni, during the time of that second temple, Tzatz Aminut Yisroel. Heresy had started to really blossom, so to speak, amongst the Jewish people. The Yatzuat Tzedukim, those were the Tzedukim we mentioned before, those who rejected all of the teachings of the Torah She'bal Peh. She'enam Aminim, who denied the validity, the authenticity, the Masorah, the passing down of the Torah She'bal Peh. Rabbi Ken Spiro, an excellent, by the way, crash course in Jewish history number 29. You go to aish.com, right? Rabbi Ken Spiro, on some of my trips to Israel, he was one of the tour guides. Excellent, excellent. He has this, I think it's 50, he breaks down to 50 points of Jewish history. And there's a fantastic crash course in Jewish history. The year is 167, source number 10, BCE. And the horrible persecution of Judaism by the Greeks is in full swing. The Greek troops show up in the town of Modi'in, a site west of Jerusalem, which you can visit today off the Jerusalem-Tel Aviv highway. My son, oldest son Tzvi, was at a yeshiva high school that was right there in Modi'in, and demand that the Jews there sacrifice an unkosher animal to the Greek gods. The elder of the town, Matityahu, who is a Kohen, that is of the priestly class, refuses. Even if all the nations that live under the rule of the king obey him and have chosen to do his commandments, departing each one from the religion of his fathers, yet I and my sons and my brothers will live or die by the covenant of our fathers. We will not obey the king's word by turning aside from our religion either to the right or to the left. That's from the book of Maccabees. But there is a Hellenized Jew in the town who is willing to do what is unspeakable in Jewish eyes. As he's about to sacrifice the animal, Matityahu stabs him, also killing the Greek official present. He then turns to the crowd and announces, "Follow me, all of you who are for God's law, all of you who are willing to stand by the covenant." And that was the start of the rebellion, which led to the miraculous victory that followed. Rav Volbe writes, when the Kohanim risked their lives when the Kohanim risked their lives for the divine service with unswerving dedication, they immediately saw miracles. One in the war, what we say in the Al Hanisim, right? Masata Giborim, the mighty into the hands of the weaker, the many into the hands of the few, the Hain Bahachzarata Avodah, and then through the rededication of the temple service with the miracle of the flask of oil. Rav Dessler writes in his Michtav Me Eliyahu, through the total and absolute dedication, the Mesirat Nafsham, the complete dedication, literally Mesirat Nefesh is giving over our lives, literally being willing to give over our lives. Through the Mesirat Nefesh al Chashmonim, Alu L'Madregat Lishma Gamur. They reach the Madrega, the level of acting in what's called Lishma, for the sake of heaven, putting one's own personal needs, concerns aside. Vizot Haita Sibaha Amitiyit, and that was the true reason, Haruchaniyit, spiritual reason, Shemachmata Zachul Itkaber Al Yevanim, that we were thereby able to overwhelm, overpower, defeat the Yevanim. Uvenes Hashemen, and with the miracle of the oil, Shenei Menorah Lo Kavu, that the lights would not go out. The lights continued to burn. Haru lahem sima min hashamayim. That was a sign, a heavenly sign that was being shown to them. Shenitgaleh b'libam haor hapnimi. That inner light, that inner flame that burns in the heart of every Jew, she'ein lo hefsek la'olamim, that will never, ever be extinguished. The miracle of the oil that the lights were not extinguished showed them a sign from heaven which revealed that their hearts contained an eternal inner light. Fascinating. The very first blessing of the Amidah concludes, Baruch atah Hashem, blessed are you, God, Magain Avraham, the shield of Abraham. What does that mean? So Abraham fought some battles, God shielded him. What does that speak to me about the shield of Abraham? And the Chidushei Harim, one of the great Rebbes of the Gerer Hasidic dynasty, explained as follows. Avraham had a spark in his heart that with all the idolatry that he was surrounded with by his father's house, his family, his community, his world, Nimrod the king, he was thrown into a furnace for refusing to discount his belief in God and to accept idolatry. Avram had that spark in his heart, which ended up being fanned and going in and becoming a bright flame that continues to illuminate the world today. As I often say, the person that has the most people that identify with him today would have to be Abraham, right? Christianity has Jesus, but Islam and Judaism doesn't speak to us. Islam has their Muhammad, Christianity and Judaism doesn't speak to them. We have our Moshe, but Abraham is the one that everyone ascribes to. Hashem is the Magain Avraham, we say in that blessing. He guards that spark of Avraham that is in the heart of each and every one of his descendants. And no matter what we go through, no matter how far we might be, no matter how much that spark seems to be covered over, it's never extinguished. Magain Avraham. And the miracle of the oil, that the lights did not extinguish, let us know that that fire in the heart and the soul of every single Jewish person, descendant of Avraham and Sarah, is never, never extinguished. We contain that eternal inner light. Rav Volbe concludes, number 13, Harei Zehu Chag HaChizuk. So behold, this is the holiday of Chizuk, of strengthening ourselves. Kol ma shenitan lanu limod, all that is for us to learn, me'at teshuot, v'hamilchamot, from the salvations and the war, b'chag zeh, in this holiday, is mesirut nefesh, being willing to push ourselves, to give of ourselves, uncompromising dedication to Jewish life, to Judaism. Ilu zachinu, and if we are worthy, hayinu mapikim Chanukah, chizuk, we would draw from this energy of Chanukah that comes back every year during these 8 days, as we sing in the Ma'osur, B'nei Vina Yemei Shmona Kavu Shir Uranim. B'nei Vina, though those with understanding, Yemei Shmona, 8 days they establish, meaning they who had that spiritual sensitivity to say it's back again the next year. This has become part of the Jewish calendar, and that we enter this tachana, this station, every year, and we're meant to draw from these 8 days. If we merit hayinu mapikim, we will draw out from the chizuk, from Chanukah, the chizuk, the strengthening, lemeshech kol hashana, for the entire year. Zohi segulat hachag, this is the segula, the special gift, influence, offering, availability of this chag, that no matter what, the lights have to keep on going, and we have to take that flame and fan it into a massive fire. And that we have this ability, no matter where we are, no matter where the nation is at, on a national level, no matter where we are on a personal level, we have this ability to come to life with this raging fire and passion for our Yahadut, for our Yiddishkeit, for our Judaism.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So get ourselves ready.
Can you tell us what Hanukkah on Wheels is about?
Yes, Chanukah on Wheels. Chanukah on Wheels is we're having a Chanukah party this Sunday night, and there will be a lighting and everything. Shlomo's going to have a wedding on Sunday, so Shlomo's going to be handling the lighting and all that, and that's going to be on. There's a wedding this Sunday night that I'm.
Somebody else.
Yes, not Shlomo. He's married. Not me. I'm married. Yes, I'm officiating at. Yes, I won't be here for that, but there'll be beautiful lighting and singing and all that goes on, and there'll be a BMX Chanukah on Wheels bike show for the kids and the adults to enjoy. I've been to Dorney Park, and they have these amazing shows that they have with these BMX bicycles. Yeah, so that'll be a nice event for the community, for the children, for the adults, for the children of all ages. Children of all ages. I'm sorry? 5 p.m. Candle lighting at 5:30. Registration required. Free for members, at a cost for non-members. Okay.
The NFL is also going to light a Hanukkah candle Friday night or Sunday night for the first time ever.
I'm sorry?
The NFL, at their Sunday night game,
Oh, yeah?
is going to light a Hanukkah candle for the first time ever.
The NFL is going to light a candle at their game. Okay.
Jewish players?
There are some Jewish players.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're Jewish players.
Okay.
Anti-Semitism, I think
That's nice.
very nice.
That is very nice. I'm in favor. Okay, Adam. Nice to have you joining us. Gabriella, Elizabeth, everyone could say hello to the group.
Thank you,
over here.
Rabbi. Yasher Koach. Hello.
Busy. Okay.
Thank you.
Back to me, Bob. Okay, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome. You're very, very welcome, everybody. Yes, Esther.
It'd be too much of a stretch to say that the anti-Semitism